Hi students, this is Kalpana, your English lecturer. I hope all of you are fit and fine, and I am very happy to share with you that we successfully completed our first prose lesson, Shyness My Shield, by M.K. Gandhi in our last two video classes. Thank you for your support. Now in our today's class, I would like to discuss all the important points of this essay once again, so that the students who didn't watch my previous videos will get an idea about the lesson. So let us start our today's session. Are you ready? Yes. Shyness My Shield by M.K. Gandhi is an extract from Gandhi's autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. Actually, Gandhi wrote his autobiography in Gujarati language, his mother tongue, and later it has been translated into several Indian languages, including English. The English translation was made by an author named Mahadev Desai. And I asked you people to make a note of the name of this author, Mahadev Desai, because in my young age, this question was posed to me in one of my competitive examinations, and at that time I was not familiar with this name. After the completion of the exam, I came to know that Gandhi's autobiography was actually written in Gujarati and it has been translated into English by Mahadev Desai. So, several types of questions can be asked in competitive examinations, like what is the full name of M.K. Gandhi, what is the name of Gandhi's autobiography, from which language Gandhi's autobiography has been translated into English, and who is the translator of Gandhi's autobiography into English. These are the different models of questions that can be asked in competitive examinations. So that is the reason I asked you people to remember the name. Now let's get back to our lesson. The important points discussed in this essay are mainly three. The first point is Gandhi's initial fear or shyness to speak in public while he was in England. The second point is the various attempts made by Gandhi to deliver a public speech. And the third point is Gandhi's realization that his shyness in fact acted as a shield and helped him in molding his personality. So these are the three main points discussed in this essay with appropriate examples. When Gandhi was in England, in order to study law and become a lawyer, he became a member of the Vegetarian Society there. Vegetarian Society is a society for vegetarian people, for the people who take only plant-related food. Being a vegetarian, Gandhi became a member of this society, and eventually after a few months, he was nominated as a member of the executive committee of the Vegetarian Society. Till here everything is fine. The only problem is that Gandhi used to attend all the meetings of the Vegetarian Society very regularly, very punctually, but he never uttered a single word or participated in any discussion of the Vegetarian Society. He always sat silently and listened to the words and discussions of others. And the reason for this Gandhi's silence is his fear of public speaking, is his shyness to speak in public. And this shyness of Gandhi continued almost all throughout his stay in England. At one particular time, there was a small conflict in the Vegetarian Society between two people, Mr. Hills and Dr. Allinson. Mr. Hills is the president of the Vegetarian Society. He was a Puritan, he was a very rich man, but he was also generous. The Vegetarian Society actually ran with the donations made by Mr. Hills. He was a very good human, but the only problem is that Mr. Hills was a Puritan, a strict and serious follower of Christianity. And the other important member of the Wesleyan Society is Dr. Allinson. By profession, this man is a doctor, and at that time, the birth control movement was in its budding years. Budding in the sense, starting stage. And Dr. Allinson, as he was a doctor, he preached this artificial birth control measures to the working classes there. And this attitude of Dr. Allinson, this support of Dr. Allinson to the birth control movement was not liked by Mr. Hills, because Mr. Hills felt that, according to Christianity, following artificial birth control measures is a wrong thing. So he wanted to expel Dr. Allinson from the Wesleyan Society on these grounds. And there was a discussion in the Wesleyan Society regarding this. Every member was asked to express their opinion. Gandhi, actually at that time, he was not a supporter of the artificial birth control measures, but still he wanted to give his support, give his vote to Dr. Allinson, because what Gandhi felt is, in order to become a member of the Wesleyan Society, the only thing needed for a person is being a Wesleyan, and that minimum eligibility is satisfied by Dr. Allinson. So there is nothing to do with a person's profession or ideology in this regard. So Gandhi felt it as an injustice to remove a person from the Wesleyan Society based on other reasons. So he wanted to support Dr. Allinson in this issue. He prepared his speech at home. He wrote down the points on a piece of paper and brought them to the meeting. But when Gandhi was given a chance to speak in the meeting, he was unable to read out from the paper. And understanding his situation, some other member took the paper from Gandhi and read out his speech for him. Gandhi felt very bad for his inability to speak in public. So this is the first incident where Gandhi utterly failed to deliver a public speech even after writing down his speech on paper. And in this discussion, Dr. Allinson lost and he was removed from the society, because we know that Mr. Hills is a very popular figure in the society and almost all the members were his followers. So most of them supported Mr. Hills in this motion, and Dr. Allinson was removed from the society. Gandhi felt that in the very first battle he was defeated, but he felt happy internally because he was on the right side and supported the right person and the right cause. After a few days, Gandhi also resigned from the Wesleyan Society because he did not like the attitude of the people there. Okay, so this is the first incident which narrates Gandhi's inability to speak in public. Now coming to the second incident, Gandhi, during his stay in England, went to a place called Ventnor with one of his friends, Sriyut Mazmudar, and they stayed with a Wesleyan family there. In their neighborhood, there was an author by name Mr. Howard. This man, Mr. Howard, wrote a book entitled The Ethics of Diet. When Gandhi and Mazmudar met Mr. Howard, these two were invited to speak at a meeting for the promotion of Wesleyanism organized by Mr. Howard. Immediately when Mr. Howard made this proposal, nervousness started in Gandhi, because we know that Gandhi is not a good public speaker and he felt very shy to speak in front of people. But he couldn't put down the invitation made by Mr. Howard. though he knew that it is not a good idea to read out one speech. As he was not a fluent speaker, Gandhi wrote down all his points on a piece of paper and brought that paper to the meeting. And when he got up to read out his speech, his eyes became blurred and his body trembled out of fear. Mazmudar took the paper from Gandhi and read his speech. Later, Mazmudar also gave his speech and it was praised by everyone over there. Gandhi felt extremely sad and ashamed of his inability to speak in public. So this is the second attempt made by Gandhi to deliver a public speech, and in this attempt also Gandhi literally failed. Now coming to the last attempt made by Gandhi to deliver a public speech, it was on the occasion of his departure to motherland, that is India, after completion of his law in England. So Gandhi gave a party to all his vegetarian friends in a very famous restaurant named Holborn Restaurant. And the speciality of this party is that Holborn Restaurant is actually a non-vegetarian restaurant, and Gandhi wanted to thrill his friends by giving a vegetarian meal in a non-vegetarian restaurant. He made all the arrangements very perfectly, and really his friends were delighted by his idea. And in England, all the parties are accompanied with speeches, music, dance, jokes, etc. So even this party of Gandhi was not an exception. So all the friends of Gandhi took their chance to speak a few words about Gandhi and about their relationship with Gandhi and how they enjoyed the company of Gandhi. And when it was Gandhi's turn to speak, Gandhi, as we all know, is not a good speaker. So the previous day itself, he prepared his speech very briefly, because in the last two attempts, he failed utterly. So this time he didn't want to fail. So he prepared a very brief speech, a very small speech, and brought that speech written on paper to the meeting. And he also wanted to narrate a funny incident and make his friends laugh. So when Gandhi stood up, his mind became blank, his memory entirely failed, and he was unable to remember what all he prepared the previous day. So instead of narrating a funny joke, Gandhi himself became a joke in that situation. He just gave a single statement: "Thank you, friends, for having accepted my invitation and coming over here." He stated like this and sat down. So even in this last attempt made by Gandhi to deliver a public speech, he was an utter failure. So this shyness of Gandhi, this fear of public speaking, continued almost all throughout his stay in England. It is only when Gandhi went to South Africa to practice as a lawyer, he was able to overcome this shyness a bit. Okay, Gandhi in his autobiography says that, "I cannot engage my friends with laughter, jokes and talk. I can just speak a few sentences with them. I am not a good speaker. I am not a good humorous person to make them laugh." So he stated like this in his autobiography. Now coming to the last section, the most important section of the essay, Gandhi's reflections on his shyness. What Gandhi felt about his shyness. By all the incidents which I have narrated here, we feel that Gandhi might have felt very ashamed, sad of his shyness. He might have considered it as a disadvantage. But what Gandhi wrote in his autobiography is that, "My shyness is not a disadvantage to me. In fact, it is an advantage." So really it's surprising. So that is the difference between we people and Gandhi. Ordinary people, we think that when we have some weakness, we consider that it is a disadvantage to us. But here Gandhi, he considered his shyness his weakness to speak in public as an advantage. Let us see how he defends himself. Gandhi says that his shyness has been an advantage to him. It helped him to speak carefully. It helped him to measure each and every word before he speaks. So because of this shyness, Gandhi spoke very less, but there was a lot of content, lot of meaning in the very few words he spoke. And he very confidently says that all throughout my lifetime, I never uttered or I never wrote a thoughtless word. I was so careful in my speech and in my writing. He says that my shyness has taught me to control my thoughts. It has taught me the economy of words. It has taught me the spiritual discipline. Generally, it is the weakness of people to either exaggerate the truth, exaggerate in the sense elaborate the truth, or suppress the truth, decrease the truth, or modify the truth. Modify in the sense change it into something else. This is the weakness of individuals. We either exaggerate or suppress or modify the truth. But because of shyness, Gandhi never did this. We know that in our freedom struggle, the two weapons that were used by Gandhi to fight against the British were truth and non-violence. So Gandhi says that his shyness has helped him to understand the truth, in a situation. The people who are silent, the people who speak less, they can judge better than the people who speak more. Okay, so Gandhi finally concludes his essay by saying that indeed my shyness worked as my shield. It protected me from doing mistakes. It helped me to grow holistically, and it also supported me to understand the truth, and it ultimately molded me into a great personality. So these are the statements made by Gandhi about his shyness. So that is the reason the essay is given the title Shyness, My Shield. Okay students, so these are the important points discussed in the essay Shyness, My Shield by M.K. Gandhi. Hope you all understood them very well. I tried my level best to explain all these points to you people. If you have any queries, please feel free to message me to my phone number personally. Please make a note of my phone number. It is 944-170-8859. In tomorrow's video, I will be giving you the question answers of this lesson, and I will try to explain each and every question once again so that you will understand it much better. Okay students, thank you for your patient listening. Please join me for tomorrow's class. Okay, as it is Vinayaka Chavati tomorrow, probably there might be no class tomorrow. So wish you all a very happy Vinayaka Chavati. Celebrate it well. Okay students, bye for now. Thank you one and all.